It's the West London derby, and it's Chelsea that emerged 1-0 winners. Let's get into it.
And blue is the colour. Essien! Drogba! Lampard! That could be the championship!
Greetings! Welcome back to Couch Critic with me, Dennis P, for what is your Chelsea match review, but more specifically, that tactical synopsis of Chelsea's performance against Fulham. But before we get into all that, you already know we're trying to grow this channel. We need your help, and you can do that by hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button, and hit the bell notification button to keep up with the latest and the newest. It'll help me grow this channel, but it'll also help my sponsors who go by the name of Major League Socks. And fellas, if you ever want to walk in the footsteps of greatness, you know what to do. Hit them up. The link will be in the description. Nothing like a West London derby to bring out the best in the supporters, and the worst for that matter. Obviously, Chelsea were much in control of this match from minute 1 right through to minute 90, and you know, for people that are Chelsea supporters and like to see the fight in the club and like to see them, you know, just really put it all on the line, this was a great win. For those who, you know, are looking for patterns of play and are for looking for, you know, pretty patterns all over the pitch, and, you know, saw that second half, they're probably thinking to themselves, well, Chelsea just escaped by the, you know, the skins of their teeth. And I don't know where I sit on this. I kind of want to see Chelsea do a bit of both. I want to see them play those pretty patterns and, you know, combine well in the final third. But I also want to see them show me the grit and determination that it takes to compete and win tough matches in the Premier League. And I think that this match in particular gave us both. That first half in particular, we saw Chelsea play extremely aggressively in the final third. We're going to talk about their shape and what kind of actions they were getting off of it. And then in the second half, we're going to also speak about how Chelsea were able to hunker down and solidify and hold on to that 1-0 lead, making some key substitutions throughout the match, and, you know, just really providing the grit and determination that is required to see out a match like a London derby, with Fulham playing good football the last little while as well. So we're going to get right into it. We're going to be looking at Chelsea's first half and the tactical analysis of that. I'm going to break down as much as I can that I saw in their setup, and hopefully you guys will see what I saw. Now, for me, that first half was the most aggressive I've seen Chelsea play in quite some time. I mean, in theory, it looked like Chelsea were playing either a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3, depending on how you determine what Gallagher's role was in the midfield. But in practice, it looked more like a 2-3-5, with Chelsea having all sorts of attackers pressed way up in the pitch and occupying the boxes and whatnot. And, you know, it was that particular shape that produced so many different actions that put Chelsea on the front foot. I mean, the entire first half, I don't think Fulham had any real opportunities other than maybe the Harry Wilson chance in a breakdown on a turnover. But outside of that, Chelsea were in crazy control that entire first half, and a lot of it had to do with the shape. Fulham just couldn't live with it. It provided Chelsea with overloads in wide areas, and, you know, didn't really give them the option of just like sitting in a zone, because we had runners running into the half spaces in front of the 18-yard box that gave all sorts of problems for Carney and Paulinho in terms of who they're picking up and who they're passing on. And this action in particular, the 2-3-5, was something that Chelsea used to great effect, and I'm going to show you why here. Now, as you can see here, Chelsea has basically set up a 2-3-5, and what you won't see here is where Silva and Disasi are placed. But Chelsea are very much aggressive in this particular setup. Lots of box presence. You see a lot of guys attacking the boxes. Enzo's in there. You see Sterling, Gallagher, Palmer, and Broa as well in there. And then that next wave right in behind our attackers is where you find Caicedo, Gusto, and Colwill. And this particular setup has a couple different looks, a couple different actions that come with it. But for the most part, the base is that we need 3 in behind the 5, and it gives Enzo the freedom to just roam in between those half spaces. Actually, Enzo and Palmer had that little bit of freedom to roam in the half spaces and whatnot. And the mannerisms of this particular shape were interesting throughout the match, and I'm going to show you what I saw that I thought was very effective. Every time Fulham gained possession of the football, they had all sorts of problems figuring out where the next pass was to break Chelsea's aggressive high press, and it produced a lot of turnovers. Here's another example of that right here. You know, Diop's in possession, and he's looking for an outlet ball, and he passes it straight right back to Colwill. And this kept on happening time and time again in that first half, where Chelsea just continually recycled possession, and Fulham were struggling to find the angles where they could break the press. Here once again is a perfect example of Chelsea's high press producing another turnover. Obviously it's Tosin in possession here. He's looking for the outlet ball and passes it right to Colwill, who then passes it into the half space that I was talking about, where you find Enzo occupying for most of the game. He's surveying the pitch, finds Cole Palmer, who then one touches it right into Gallagher, into the teeth of the defense, and Chelsea get an opportunity there. Obviously on another day it's a better shot. Now primarily what you saw was, obviously the second wave was feature Caicedo in the middle, flanked by Gusto and Colwill, but that wasn't the only action that Chelsea got off of this particular setup. There were times where you saw Gallagher drop into the spaces that were occupied by Gusto, and Gusto would be pushing up on hugging the touchline, and it freed up Cole Palmer to have a little bit more freedom to come centrally and whatnot. Now my least favorite action off of this 2-3-5 set that I think Chelsea were trying to implement in the first half was the set where we saw Gallagher come deep and make up that midfield three. And the reason why I wasn't really too keen on that is because the options that come off of that, so when Chelsea were creating those 2v1 situations out wide and we're looking for runs off the ball to get into the box, I just don't think that Conor Gallagher recognizes these situations very well. Like here's a perfect example. Chelsea have set up that 2-3-5 setup here. You see Gusto out wide, you see Cole Palmer coming near, and what you want to see here is when they're working that 1-2 off of each other, you want to see Gallagher recognize that Antony's being pulled out by Cole Palmer and he's looking to make that darting run to get in behind him, and instead of like playing the ball into space where Cole Palmer's in a 50-50 challenge with Antony, he just recycles possession again and the opportunity's gone. But again, in a situation where you have somebody like, say, I don't know, Chukwuemeka or even like an Enzo in those positions, you will see Chelsea start to open teams with more regularity. It's just the awareness, the offensive awareness that seems to be waning here. I like the action that we're creating here. I like the fact that Chelsea are looking to pull defenders out of position and then look to get in behind and whatnot. It's just now recognizing when those situations are on. The reason why I like Enzo in these positions is because when you're looking for those little like through balls, those little slipped in passes here, like the one here where he sets up Cole Palmer, he's the only one in the squad that actually recognizes these passes. So when you see him central and you have that much pressure on the defense that they can't necessarily engage with him because it opens up spaces for our attackers who are just ahead of him, this is the beauty of Enzo Fernandez for me, when he has the time and space on the ball to survey the pitch, pick passes, and he has options to the left, to the right, and deeper on the pitch. So again, if Chelsea take advantage of these situations more often, get Enzo centrally into these positions where we are attacking with a little bit more thrust, we're going to see all sorts of opportunities just like the one we just saw here. Another feature in the first half that was very, very evident on Chelsea's build-up play was whenever we were looking for an overlap out in the wide areas on the left, it wasn't Colwill necessarily that was getting into those spaces. He did a few times, but for the most part, what we saw was Enzo getting into those areas in the wide areas on the pitch and looking for those crosses with his passing acumen. And on this occasion here, it was Raheem Sterling's on the ball. He's grabbed the attention of two Fulham defenders, and because they are not paying attention to the run of Enzo, he's found an acres of space where he can just pick a pass and find Broja wide open inside the 18. And on another day, Broja sees an open header like that, and he's at least testing the keeper. But again, these actions where Fulham were unable to track the runners off the ball and whatnot, and Chelsea are recognizing the areas where Fulham's soft and can attack. These just kept on coming up time and time again in the first half. Again, it's just these opportunities that are not being taken, but it's not like Chelsea are not creating these opportunities and are not recognizing where the soft spots are in Fulham's defense. Now on the right side of the pitch, the characteristics of this 2-3-5 was very, very different. Where you saw Colwill basically sit home, Gusto was given license to get forward, and if you can see here, very quick, as soon as Disasi gets in the possession here on the football, you can see that the next action is for Gusto to get into the half spaces in the midfield there. And this action right here, again, is another situation where Chelsea are creating 2v1 situations in the wide areas where either Willian or Antony have to make decisions about who they want to engage with and what they want to take away. away. And unfortunately, again, this attack breaks down because, Gusto plays the 1-2, but it plays it out of bounds instead of finding the feet of Cole Palmer. But again, these actions in the wide areas were very much evident throughout the game. And these are the patterns of play that people are talking about they're not seeing. This is just them right now. This is where we're starting to see them implemented a little bit more, frequently, where Chelsea are recognizing situations where they get on the ball, what the action is. Once Disasi gets on the ball, it means that Gusto advances up into the midfield. It means that Cole Palmer comes infield a little bit more and creates that 2v1 situation in the wide areas. Chelsea were trying to do that countless times in the first half, and those are the patterns of play that were working to a certain degree, but not necessarily producing the fruits of the labor. We weren't getting the gilt-edge opportunities to score goals until very late on in that first half. Now, with respects to the wide areas, the left back position that seems to be a hot button topic at Chelsea these days, I thought that Colwill did a good job against Fulham, snuffing out most of their attacking moves. But there were situations where, his defensive awareness let him down. And in the first half, here's a perfect example of it right now. Chelsea are in good shape here. Fulham's on the break. And what you want to see Colwill do here is you want to see him, survey the pitch, know what's behind him. He's not playing center back here. He has to know that his responsibility is the back post. And obviously he comes a little bit too narrow here, and it provides space for Harry Wilson to get on the ball and putting a telling shot on goal. And this is just about his awareness. And these are the things that people see that make you think that he's not a left back. He's not a guy that you can rely on to make the instinctual decisions that a left back would make in those situations. So yeah, I don't want to see much more of it. I think that we've seen enough of it. It's not that he's not getting forward enough, like he's picking his spots, and this game is a perfect testament to that. He did overlap on a few occasions, like this one here where Raheem Sterling plays him into space. And there was another opportunity in the second half where he's galloping forward and getting into the box as well. But, that's not really his strong suit. His strong suit is, playing those deep lying passes, that get right into the teeth of our attackers and, getting them into the half spaces and whatnot. We're just not seeing the benefit of having him in that left back position, other than the fact that we've had like a whole host of injuries that make him the only one that obviously Pochettino trusts in that position. But as we start to see more health in that position, I think that the use of Colwill in the left back position has to start to, subside, and we have to start seeing somebody that provides more natural width for Chelsea to be effective going forward. Now, for me, Enzo was man of the match for reasons that go well beyond just, his passing acumen and, and his vision in the final third. I think that he was all over the pitch. He was creating opportunities for Chelsea to get into really, really dangerous areas. He was winning tackles. He was getting interceptions. He was just really, really busy. And I've been, basically griping that, he doesn't really show that he has the fitness levels to compete in the Premier League for 90 minutes. This was a completely different Enzo altogether today. And, I have no problem with admitting that. I think he's a very, very talented player. And he's a guy that if he can find the fitness levels to give us that consistent run of form like what we saw today, we're like sky's the limit. Let's just leave it there. Here's an option where Enzo gets on the ball at the half circle and gets in acres of space, moves it out to Raheem Sterling, and then makes a darting run into the space. And wow, like the recognition there from Enzo, just knowing where the space was to attack, is just so great there. Like, so if you watch what happens here, essentially Enzo is making that darting run. Paulinho has now passed off his responsibility to Diop. He's just saying, like, I don't want to deal with it, you deal with it. So Diop now has to come over to deal with Enzo in the half space about to attack like the 18-yard box. And what you want to see here is obviously, first of all, you want to see Raheem Sterling recognize that this is a situation where he can play in Enzo and Chelsea are 2v1 against the defender. But the next thing you want to see, and this is where your striker becomes so important in the build-up plays, you want to see Broja understand what's happening here. Obviously, if Enzo is being engaged by Diop, it leaves acres of space for Broja to attack. And what he chooses to do here is come near. And once he comes near, the opportunity for Chelsea to attack 2v1 is gone right now. Let's just assume for a second that Raheem Sterling recognizes the run of Enzo and plays it into him. If the next action is for Broja to come back into the midfield, the advantage that is created by making that line-breaking pass into Enzo is gone when Broja doesn't recognize that he now has to give the defender, who is Diop in this situation, something else to think about. He has to have him on his back heels thinking that, oh, well, if I go to Enzo, I'm leaving this space behind me here. And it's just not, we're not seeing that recognition yet from our strikers yet. So, this is something to work on, understanding, spatially where you need to be and offensively where you need to be to really attack the defense with some real verve. But, these actions, again, with Enzo and, him understanding where the spaces are, once we start connecting on that stuff, we're going to see another evolution in Chelsea's attacking schemes. Now, in the second half, obviously Chelsea got the late goal in the first half to go up 1-0, and in the second half, Fulham were forced to chase the game now, and try and get out and play. And, they started thrusting more bodies forward and whatnot. And as a result, the game got stretched, like right from the 60. I would say Chelsea were still in control of the game for about 70 minutes in and around there, where we were in control. And, Fulham were looking to break, but they didn't really have much attacking threat. And, about the 75-80 minute mark, you saw, Chelsea get into a few foul situations, and as a result, it gave Fulham the chance to get more bodies up the pitch and, attack with free kicks and whatnot. Not much of them led to much, but for the most part, I think the game got really, really stretched, and you just saw a helter-skelter game of Chelsea going back and forth and back and forth. You couldn't really depend on the referee to bail you out of these situations, put a lot of pressure on Chelsea in the final third. That's where I felt like most of the pressure was coming from, if I'm being honest. I don't think that Fulham was really offering much of a threat. But again, they were looking at areas where they wanted to attack on the pitch. And this brings us to the next point, where Chelsea decided to make a tactical substitution. All sorts of consternation online. Obviously, he brings off Raheem Sterling and brings on Ben Chilwell, who was a welcome addition back to the side. Welcome back, Ben. And, all sorts of consternation because he saw Ben Chilwell play the left wing position. And, I just don't understand it. Like, this is exactly what you want as a Chelsea player. You want to see Chelsea see out matches, bring on players that can help you see out matches. It was no secret that, Colwill was being targeted in the second half for, just, again, his lack of awareness in that left back position. And what we did was we brought off an attacker in Raheem Sterling, who was a little bit fatigued and wasn't really looking to, get back and help Colwill in defensive scenarios. And we brought on Chilwell and didn't task him with having to defend, an overload on his left side there. So, I thought it was tactically an astute move by Pochettino, but it met with so much consternation online because Chelsea, are now misprofiling players and playing them out of position again. And for me, I didn't see it at all. I thought this was a defensive tactical substitution to deal with the two fresh bodies that came onto the pitch on the right side. I didn't mind that. And the other thing that I did not mind is that Chelsea, ended up going to a back five. So they ended up playing 5-4-1 to finish out the game there, and just basically just hunkered down and saw the win. For me, this is just seeing out the match. This is an opportunity for Chelsea to collect 3 points. They're in a position where, they haven't done that a lot in the season, where, we have a lead, a 2-0 lead against Arsenal evaporates. All sorts of positions where Chelsea were in the ascendancy of the match and saw it slip away because we were unable to see out the match and see the victory. And this, to me, is a return to Chelsea of old, a gutsy performance where, the opposition is giving us something to think about. And, we make the tactical switches to see out the match and produce a gutsy performance. If this is what Chelsea are going to look like going forward, where this young squad understands how to keep their composure, understands how to see out these matches and play with the right sort of intensity and passion that you need to win these matches, there's going to be lots of points that Chelsea are going to be able to win in the latter stages of the season. This is what the missing ingredient is. Outside of scoring goals, which we've done at a fair clip this year, outside of the pretty patterns of play that people want to see, tiki-taka football. What I want to see is a result of a performance that produces results. And this is exactly what it is. When your back's against the wall, when you have, an aggressive opponent coming at you, can you see through these matches and produce the 3 points. And, this is a gutsy enough performance that if replicated will produce a lot of points for Chelsea going forward. But I do think I'm going to wrap it up there. Chelsea, find a way to win the game. What more can you say? 3 points on the board. Chelsea moving up the table now and looking to get healthy again, which is a big part of this whole thing. Young squads, need competition for places. We saw Carney Chukwuemeka come back into the game, which is a welcome addition as well. A guy that can challenge Gallagher for that number 8, number 10 role. And, we're hearing good news that Nkunku might not be out as long as was anticipated. So getting healthy at the right time, this is when we need to start finding a run of form that produces 3 points. And, nobody talks about it, but Chelsea, since December 1st, have produced the second most amount of points over anyone else in the Premier League right now after Liverpool. So, we're in a good run of form right now. It may not look the prettiest, but when has it ever looked pretty at Chelsea? Let's be real. We just don't play pretty football. What we do and what we've traditionally done is just ground up results and found ways to win tough games. And if we can return to that, I guarantee you we're going to see a lot more points on the board. But until then, keep the blue flag flying high and up the Chels. Peace.